Cross-court pass picked off by Carr. 2-on-1. Marcus drives, lobs it in. Hunter for a slam dunk. 6-2 Longhorns, 6 unanswered. 9 to shoot. Timmy driving baseline on McCullough. Double team, got to get rid of it. Does. Underneath Bishop. Had it knocked out of his hands, going up, got it back. And then a three-pointer. Morris, good. Arterio knocks it down on the broken play. Timeout, Kansas. Wilson between the circles, trying to drive on Allen. Puts his head down, then had the ball knocked out of his hands. Scooped up by Tyrese Hunter. Here's Tyrese trying to go coast to coast. Dropped it to the cutter underneath. Allen, it's good, and he's fouled. Great balance by Timmy Allen. What a pass back by Tyrese Hunter. The bucket and a free throw to come into the front court. Allen dribbling, drops it back behind. Hunter for three, good. Tyrese knocks it down. Longhorns have their largest lead of the day, their first double-digit advantage, 25-14. Carr being guarded by Ernest Uday. Bounce pass. Carr out to Hunter, wants another three, has another three. Back-to-back three-pointers by Tyrese Hunter. Texas, its largest lead of the ball game, up 12. Timeout, Kansas. Onto the right wing, looking into the paint. Carr with a bounce pass to Christian Bishop. He's working on the smaller Kevin McCullough, trying to body up with him. Goes up strong against him and scores with the left hand. 11 out to Hunter into the corner. Rice takes a dribble, shoots a three, makes the three. How about that? He dribbled it, set it, nailed it. Texas up 14 with 4 minutes to go. To Jabari Rice, 7 to shoot. Rice against Grady Dick, going to drive on him, spins, turns the fadeaway, good! A la Dirk Nowitzki, the step-back fadeaway. Marcus Carr, a senior with a big smile on his face, and why not? What an afternoon he's having. 6 on the shot clock, now to Hunter. Tyrese, 3 to shoot, driving on Harris, puts it up, missed it. Follow slam there by Dylan DeSue, an exclamation point. And that's going to do it. Longhorns to inbound the ball. Let the celebration begin. We'll see in Kansas City at 6 o'clock next Thursday night. The Texas Longhorns authoritatively take down the third-ranked team, the defending national champions, the current Big 12 Conference champions. They dominate this one and win it. Final score this afternoon from Moody Center in Austin. The Texas Longhorns 75, the Kansas Jayhawks 59.
Well, and with that, an emphatic end to the regular season for the Longhorn men's basketball team, finishing as the number 2 overall seed in the Big 12 Conference tournament. They finished in sole possession of second place in the Big 12 Conference standings, and the Longhorns now get ready for the Big 12 Conference tournament beginning on actually begins on Wednesday. Longhorns won't play until Thursday since they're not in the play-in contest of Wednesday night in Kansas City. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My name is Craig Wade. Jeff Howe is down on campus with the first Longhorn football spring practice underway this morning, and then Steve Sarkisian doing media availability. Jeff will join us a little bit later on in the program. Cameron Parker, our regular producer, is attending to some other station business that he's working on right now, so we're pleased to have Happy Jack Farrell with us today. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing well, Craig. How are you?
Good. You're kind of a, not to have any pun or play on words, jack of all trades. You do a lot of different things for us here. And so I'm just wondering how it works for you when you step into one role like this, and then you're going to be like the engineer on site for our final seasonal edition of Longhorn Weekly with Vic Schaefer, special basketball edition this evening at 6:30, which, by the way, will be heard on 105.3 The Bat. So you do that, and then what? The promotions and other people at the station have a variety of other duties for you as well, don't they?
I've been off the remotes a little bit more, which I do appreciate. That's one less thing that I have to do. But yeah, a lot to do, a lot of different hats that I wear. It's nice. It makes me a little bit more indispensable, so I always have work, which is the best part. But the hardest thing about it is every studio that we have in here, the AM studio, this studio, and the 105.3 studio, has a slightly different setup, and that can be confusing. But otherwise, it's a lot of fun, and I'm happy to do it. Happy to be the jack of all trades, to use the same pun.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I knew there was a lot of different things involved in that. And I should point out also, as I put in that, don't you kind of do like Cam Parker as well? Aren't you also involved in some high school broadcast, telecast, webcast, streamcast, things of that nature?
Yes, sir. I've been working at formerly KMAX Sports and Vipe Media now, but I remember Cameron and I, we went to San Antonio like my freshman year of college to do some NFHS playoff games, but lately I've been the voice of the Anderson Trojans basketball team. So that's been my gig for the last 3-4 seasons.
And they had a nice run. I mean, pulled
Very
a surprise, got in the playoffs.
They started, I think, 1-5 in district, and then ended 9-8. Had that play-in game against Dripping Springs over here at Westlake to get in, and then they ran into that Stony Point juggernaut, which isn't slowing down for too many people.
True, absolutely. Okay. So among the things that we're going to get to on the program today, we're going to hear from Sir'Jabari Rice. We're going to hear from Rodney Terry following the Longhorns win over the Kansas Jayhawks on Saturday afternoon. And we'll kind of set it up for you, the Big 12 Conference tournaments, both for the men and the women. Obviously, massive shout-out and congratulations to Vic Schaefer and the Texas women's basketball team. It's the first Big 12 Conference title in the regular season won by the Longhorns in 19 years. Last time it happened was 2004. That's when Jody Conrad had the back-to-back Big 12 women's regular season champions. In 2003, they were outright Big 12 champs and won the conference tournament. In 2004, they shared the title with Kansas State. They were the number one seed, but then lost in the Big 12 tournament championship game to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the 6th seed that year, and it was the first time on either the men's or women's side that a team won 4 games on 4 consecutive days to win the conference tournament. That still has not happened on the men's side. They've never had a team go through and pull what Syracuse and UConn did in the past in the Big East, winning 5 straight games. That's happened before, but it has not happened in the Big 12 Conference tournament. Speaking of which, it was a really good run for Texas State. The Bobcats in the Sun Belt tournament, they won 3 games to get to the semifinals and then lost a tough one to the number 2 seed Louisiana last night. Had they won, they would have won 4 straight to get to the conference tournament final tonight, but they didn't. They got knocked out in the semifinal by Louisiana, so their season has concluded. The Texas State women are in the conference tournament final. They were the number 2 seed, co-champs of the regular season with James Madison, and both have won a couple of games to get to the final. And so they play this afternoon at 1 o'clock to get, as the old saying goes, to get the ticket punched to the big dance. So Texas State has an opportunity to get there on the women's side. But the Texas women, the Longhorn women, have won the regular season. They are the number 1 seed. They shared the regular season title with Oklahoma. Both teams wound up 14-4 in conference play, but Texas, of course, swept OU during the course of the regular season, and so that's why the Longhorns draw the number 1 seed. They will not see action until Friday afternoon at 1:30, and that'll be at historic Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City. The men play, both teams play downtown. The men are in the Power and Light District, just down the street from the main heart of downtown where Municipal Auditorium is. And the men are playing in at the T-Mobile Center, and that'll be Thursday, and Texas will play Thursday evening at 6 o'clock. They will play the winner of the Wednesday night game between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So a little bit of bedlam there to decide who will draw the Longhorns in the quarterfinal round. But we'll run down all the bracketing and the stuff for that, and we've got bracketology to get to. So, yeah, there's some bracketological prognostications that we have to sift through as well, not only from Joe Lenardi at ESPN, but also Jerry Palm from CBS Sports. So we've got that to sort through as well, and on the national scene as well, some of that. Longhorn baseball, Texas drops 2 out of 3 over the weekend at Cal State Fullerton, and That's one of those weekends that I'm sure David Pierce and the staff look back at that and see how close they were where it could have been a sweep of all three. Certainly win 2 out of 3, but ended up losing 2 out of 3. They had a 5-1 lead on Friday night and had several things kind of go off the rails for them. Some of it was bullpen related, but not all of it. There was a fly ball that Porter Brown, had he been able to reach, would have ended the inning with Texas, I think, still up 5-3 at the time. And it had been damp and slick, and his feet went right out from under on the grass, and the ball went over his head, and so 2 runs scored on that. And Fullerton got a great bullpen effort, and they won that one. Texas came back and won Saturday's game 4-2. And then yesterday, Texas spotted Fullerton, a 3-0 lead, came back, had a big home run by Jack O'Dowd in the 9th inning to tie the score, and had a chance to go ahead, couldn't do it. And then in the 10th, took the lead, could not hold it. And then in the 11th, Fullerton found a way to win in the 11th inning there. So tough losses there for them. So they wind up dropping 2 of 3 there. They're back at home to begin a 14-game homestand. Nothing like being able to sleep in your own bed and all that sort of stuff. So that's what they're going to be doing over the next fortnight. 14 games at home. It's really spread out over 2 calendar weeks. And it will start with Sam Houston tomorrow night, and then they have Mercer on Wednesday night. Then following a day off, Manhattan comes to town for a weekend. Do you know the mascot of Manhattan College in New York there, Jack?
Is it any alliteration? Is it a?
It is not. Okay, it's not an alliterative name.
I'm not going to get it.
It's the Jaspers.
What is that?
It's
is it
like
a tree?
No. It goes back to the 1800s. It's like a dude. It's kind of like
the Mets.
Yeah, kind of like that. The Mets, of course, being short for Metropolitans, but the Jaspers, like their logo had like a top hat and and I think tails and stuff like that. So anyway, it's the Jaspers. They play this weekend. So they've got an extended homestand going on. Texas softball's on a roll. They've won 9 in a row. They continue play this week as well. So there's a lot to get to here on the program. And as well, as always, we certainly invite your thoughts, your questions, your comments on the Specs text line at 337-3776. That's 512-337-3776. I was asked, do you ever get a chance to go to the college basketball experience down there in Kansas City, or is your schedule too tight? Also, your favorite Kansas City barbecue joint? It's almost like asking somebody their favorite child. First of all, I have been in the college basketball experience before and the College Basketball Hall of Fame, not during the Big 12 tournament, because my schedule does get pretty tight, especially when I'm calling both men's and women's games. And fortunately, it's easier for me this year because the women being a 1 seed and the men being 2 seed, the start times of their games are really going to be staggered so that I can do both the men's and women's games without any real issue that in terms of time. For example, the men play the women's tournament doesn't begin until Friday anyway, and the men begin on Wednesday, but Texas' first game is Thursday. They play Thursday night at 6. If they win that, they play in the semifinals on Friday night at 8:30. The women begin Friday afternoon at 1:30, and if they win, they go to the semifinals. They would play at noon on Saturday. The men, if they reach the championship, would tip off at 5, so there's plenty of time there. And then, of course, if the women make the final, that is at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So there's enough downtime space there. I've been to the college basketball experience and the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, I should point this out. I'm glad you brought this up. There is a difference between the College Basketball Hall of Fame and the Naismith Hall of Fame, Basketball Hall of Fame. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is like the all-encompassing, be-all, end-all basketball Hall of Fame. That encompasses professional basketball, collegiate basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, international basketball. All of that is part of the Naismith Hall of Fame. The College Basketball Hall of Fame is just college basketball, but it's great. It's very interactive. lots of video things and things. I went in it with the Texas men's basketball team before they played in that early season tournament they have in Kansas City. In fact, they play that tournament at the Muni, at the old municipal auditorium there where the women's tournament goes on. And I think the last time I went in it, let's tell you how long ago this was. I think it was 2006. Texas was playing in that event. And so the team got there like the day before. And Rick Barnes had the entire team take the tour through it. They got a tour through it, and I was along there with them and went in for the tour and did all that. And it was really cool to see that. And then Texas played in that event, and they beat Iowa, I think, in the semifinals, and then beat West Virginia by, I think, 1 point in the championship. And who knew that, and this was the 05-06 season, so it would have been late fall 05, that in March of 06, those two teams would meet up again, Texas and West Virginia. Of course, West Virginia was in the Big East at the time. And that would be the famous game where Kevin Pittsnoggle hits the shot for West Virginia. The Longhorns race down the floor. A.J. Abrams gets a great pass to Kenton Paulino, who buries the three at the buzzer, and the Longhorns win the game to go to the Elite Eight. They would wind up losing in overtime to LSU in the Elite Eight. But memorable moment there for Longhorn basketball as they won that one in the Sweet 16. You were probably too young to remember much of any of that.
I got started in Texas sports pretty early.
Did you?
My first game was in 2003 when I was 3.
Okay.
Chance Mock was the quarterback.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the Irwin Center.
Okay.
PJ Tucker was my favorite player.
Yeah.
So I definitely remember McNeil Legend, A.J. Abrams, and
absolutely
all those teams.
Yeah, good point. But that was the time I went into the CBE, and somebody said, didn't LaMarcus Aldridge get a block shot at the end to win that game against West Virginia and Kansas City? He did. LaMarcus had a huge block in that. I think the final was like 71 to 70. Victor on the Specs text line. I've been meaning to ask you guys. I know you had some issues with your opening song, Eminence Front by the Who. How y'all able to overcome? I don't know of any issues. So I'm glad y'all are able to still use it. There was some question. Yeah, I remember now what you're talking about, Victor. There was a thing that accompanied it had to do with licensing and trademarking and stuff. That was several months ago, though, but they got it all worked out. So that's why it worked out. Ended up working out okay. So that's good. Ice Cream Man mentioned that this was the LSU team that had, Big Baby Glenn Davis was on it. In that Elite Eight game, that regional final game, and that was in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. The thing about that game is in 06 is that Glenn, he had a good game. Glenn Davis had a Big Baby. He had a big game, but not as much as Tyrus Thomas did. Thomas had a monster game, and the Longhorns really struggled with him. And but it did go overtime, and LSU won that contest in overtime to go to the Final Four. Someone said, all that talking, do you have a regimen to keep your voice in place? And if you start feeling a little irritation in the throat, what kind of remedies do you do? And you're probably referring to the fact that this past weekend, even if you go back a week, there was a Sunday baseball game against Indiana. There was a Monday women's basketball game against Baylor. There was a Tuesday baseball game against LSU. There was a Wednesday men's basketball game in Fort Worth at TCU. There was Longhorn Weekly on Thursday night with Rodney Terry. I flew to California and did the baseball game Friday night at Cal State Fullerton, zipped back to the airport to catch a red eye back. And by the way, that turned out to be an adventure. The traffic, we know LA traffic is what it is on the freeways. Even Friday night at 10 o'clock local time at night can be a little bit difficult. But after I dropped off the rental car and got in the shuttle bus, we were stuck in gridlock 2 blocks from the airport. And then in the airport area itself, I finally got off the bus and basically jogged several blocks to the terminal with a backpack on to get there in time. So I had a red-eye flight Friday night. Landed Saturday morning, went back to the house and showered and changed, and went to Moody Center and did the men's basketball game against Kansas. When that was over, I zipped out in the truck and raced down I-35 to San Antonio and did the UIL girls 6A state championship Saturday night, the telecast for NFHS, and congratulations to San Antonio Clark, or Northside Clark, winning its first ever state title, beat two-time defending state champion DeSoto in the process. So that was Saturday night. Yesterday was a historic day. Yesterday was the first true day off where I did not have a game or a show to do or travel to or from a game or something. It's the first time I've had a true, completely full off day in 3 months. So it was nice.
What's the most games you've ever called in a day? I did a basketball tournament where I had 3 basketball games, and then I had to go be a sideline reporter for Vandergrift. But I imagine
that's impressive.
The state football tournament, those days that you do, I imagine you've done 4 or 5 games in a day.
The most I could get done because of the clock.
Yeah, the timing of it.
Yeah, the most I've ever done 4 football games in one day.
That is brutal.
That was 4, and 3 has been more commonplace. But anyway, to the texter's question. It's mainly a lot of preventative maintenance, really, in season, so to speak. Once I start with football, I try not to have much in the way of the caffeinated, carbonated sodas because the caffeine can, kind of constrict your vocal cords. Same thing with coffee. You try to limit the amount of caffeine intake on that. I say try. I quite often do not succeed with that, but I try to do that. And, I think people have different styles of broadcasting. They do different things. And I think that it's certainly possible to get excited, be excited for the team you're broadcasting for, to be able to transmit the excitement of the moment without blowing a gasket, without completely, blowing out the vocal cords and stuff like that. So there's some practice over years, I guess, that comes in. And then the other thing is just try to get rest. And there's times when rest is at a premium, like Friday night. I have learned to sleep on planes, but never for long term. That was a red-eye overnight flight, and I did fall asleep probably 3, maybe 4 times during the course of a 3-hour plus flight. You sleep for about 20, 30 minutes and then wake up. And we've all been there, where you doze off and you sleep, and you might even drop into a pretty deep sleep, but then you wake up and you do that. So you just try to grab sleep as you can during those busy times. And then when it's not as busy, try to make it up. Like yesterday, I hadn't done this, and I give credit to my wonderful wife, Linda, who knew how tired I was by the time I got home late Saturday night. It was about 1 o'clock Sunday morning when I got back from San Antonio. And when I got into bed, I knew I would not be long for this world in terms of being awake. I knew I was going to fall asleep. And she knew it as well. And I was out probably within a few minutes. I think I woke up 2 times. I think I woke up twice, but relatively quickly back to sleep, and I woke up at 11 a.m. Never sleep that late. I was like, is it really that? But I felt a lot better, so it's not too bad. It's all right. So anyway, it's kind of a long answer there, as many of mine are, with regard to regimen on things of that. So said we need to do a documentary of a week in a life. Now, I think it might get a little bit boring there. And to Jeff, yes, I did get rest since I'm going home after hearing your schedule, and I'd take a nap. Victor said, I got to call one of the boys' regional finals at Burger Center this weekend. Abbott lost to McMullen County. That's 1A. Of course, the Cowboys are on the state. The interesting thing about Abbott, they had 5 cousins playing for them, all the same last name. Yeah, I had to say that name. I know the name you're talking about because I did the 6-man state championship game in it, and they had that several of them were cousins on that. Somebody asked whatever happened to Big Country. Can't remember team he played. He played for Oklahoma State. Bryant Big Country Reeves from Gans, Oklahoma.
Vancouver Grizzlies as well.
Yeah.
His whole
Then he
NBA
went
career.
went in the NBA and played for the Vancouver Grizzlies before they moved to Memphis. You're exactly right for Big Country. He's still in Oklahoma. He's still around. In fact, when Texas played Oklahoma State in women's basketball, it was up there in January. I believe it's Taylon Collins who plays for them. Her dad was a teammate of Big Country, and they're from that same area, and still good friends. And her dad and Big Country, and they stay out there. Somebody said, "Did you happen to say I'm molested during the basketball game?" I didn't ever hear you misspeak. Wanted to make sure I wasn't hearing. Maybe I did. Maybe I said I'm molested to the hoop. I guess that's a sports term. It doesn't mean quite what others would come to think of it as. It just means nobody guarded him, fouled him, blocked him. If I did say it, that's what it would have been. It's kind of an old school term on that. Somebody had said, I always remember Bill Melton struggled not to lose his voice when he had several events. Bill Melton, great guy that did the PA for years. Our man CB on the Specs text line was talking about, he said Bijan had the same 40 time as he did at his combine workout in 2003, and said LaMarcus Aldridge and Tyrus Thomas ended up getting traded for each other a few months after that LEA game. I certainly remember that. It's a good point, CB. They did, as they faced off in that 2006 season. So, and then to the question about the barbecue, because I've had somebody ask about that. Somebody else said Joe's Kansas City barbecue burn-ins, a must-try. CBB experience, a bit overrated. It depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're going into that college basketball experience expecting to be just blown away like it's the Valhalla, it's not that. It's only about college basketball. It's not the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. It's still a nice visit in there, but it's not. It just depends on what you're looking for. I guess you could apply the same philosophy to barbecue. I'm on record as saying this, and I will stand by this. You remember, this is a guy who grew up in North Carolina, so I grew up eating North Carolina pork barbecue. I love all barbecue, and I don't rate Texas brisket versus North Carolina versus Memphis versus Kansas City. I've had them all. I love them all. It's all they're different culinary experiences. That's why I don't rate one state versus the other on stuff. Nothing, absolutely nothing beats Texas brisket and sausage. But absolutely love it. By the same token, I love burn-ins in Kansas City, as the texter points out. The burn-ins at Joe's, and I've had them at Joe's, is good. And I've had it at Gates, and I love Arthur Bryant's sandwich, where you get the brisket and the burn-ins on the same sandwich, is good. Q39 I've been to. Jack Stack. If it's a barbecue joint in Kansas City, chances are I've hit it. So I love all that. It's a different culinary experience. Same thing if you went to Central Barbecue or one of the other famous spots in Memphis. Different seasoning, different rubs, things like that, and different sauces. That's great. And the same thing with North Carolina. It's a pork barbecue, and it's a different culinary experience. That's why I don't compare all of those. You could compare them within their own areas and say, hey, do you like Joe's better than, whatever, Jack Stack or Arthur Bryant's or whatever? Or do you like, say, whatever, Terry Black's versus, say, Kreitz's or something like that down in Texas, or North Carolina, Lexington barbecue versus, some other ones. I think you can compare it within its own area, but crossing the states and crossing the styles and the different kinds of meats, I think that's a comparison that's kind of difficult. So somebody asks, have you eaten City Market Barbecue in Luling? Absolutely. And it's outstanding. So it's very, very, very good. And somebody else, what year did the Longhorns lose to LSU in the NCAA tournament when they had Stromile Swift? That would have been 2000 in Salt Lake City in the second round. It turned out to be Chris Mims' final game when they lost. Texas had beaten Indiana State in the first round. And as soon as that first round game was over, speaking of the travel, I got to the airport and I flew from Salt Lake to Newark and had the women's first-round game, a heartbreaking loss. That was the year Edwina Brown won the college basketball, the Wade Trophy, as being the best women's player in all of college basketball. Texas got beat in the first round by St. Joseph's that year in Piscataway, New Jersey. Flew back the next day and was working with Bill Schoening at the time. Bill was calling the play-by-play, and was the analyst. Went back when Texas lost to LSU, I believe by 5, something like 72-67 in the second round, and Stromile Swift played for LSU that year. So that's something there. All right, I'm gonna get to more of your questions, more of your text on the Specs text line, because we got more barbecue stuff to tell you. Hey, it is, after all, Big 12 Conference Tournament Week. We have our Longhorn Notebook coming up. We're going to hear from Rodney Terry. We're also going to hear from Sir-Jabari Rice, who was named the Big 12 Conference Sixth Man of the Year yesterday. So we're going to hear from those two guys. We'll run down the tournament brackets for you. And then later on we have Inconceivable this hour, more college basketball, more things, and baseball to discuss. And Jeff Howe will be able to check in with us once the practice and media availability is done. So all that's still to come here on Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, as we gear on into the spring, certainly a lot of things come to mind. And among those things that come to mind is the health of all of us. You know, when I work all these games and it gets to be a little bit grind, sometimes I think about my health. And for you guys, if your weight is not exactly where you want it and your health as a result of that is suffering, in other words, if you're kind of in that 250 to 300 pound scale on the weight scale, well, Total Men's Primary Care can help you regain control of your life and your weight. Through a combination of coaching, diet, and medication, Total Men's Primary Care can help you lose the most weight while ensuring you stay healthy and help your body develop the long-term results. Taking care of your health has never been easier. Go to TotalMens.com and click on the big yellow button to book an appointment. Total Men's Primary Care is the doctor's office just for men. And we'll be checking in with Jeff a little later on this morning following the Sark media availability, following the first spring football practice of this brand new 2023 calendar year. So we'll get the review on that coming up. Speaking of Longhorns, it now brings us to our Longhorn Notebook. Or Longhorn Notebook in Jeff Howe's absentia. It is brought to you by Erin Bowersock, your home loan expert, your Longhorn lender. Be sure to check her out on the web at bowersockteam.com. See if she can do for you what she did for Linda and me, and that was to help get that home loan approval turned around in a snap. She is, after all, the person who can make that 10-day home loan approval guarantee a reality. Again, it's bowersockteam.com, BOWERSOCK, bowersockteam.com. Okay, and again, Jeff will give us the practice review. There was a media window where he was able to view a little bit of that this morning, and then he'll check in with us a little later on following the Sark media availability to talk about what Sark had to say in the practice review itself. Meanwhile, both the Texas men's and women's basketball teams are preparing for the upcoming Big 12 Conference tournament. Now, it started all, of course, with the men taking care of business, followed by the women, because the men tipped off like an hour earlier than the women did. The men's tournament schedule is now set after a tremendous performance on Saturday afternoon. And incidentally, for guys who think that Kansas had nothing to play for, I think, first of all, Bill Self would disagree with you and pretty much talked about it in the postgame news conference afterwards that they came full out. They played all their starters. They wanted to win the game to continue to enhance their seed line. What they were looking for is to try to get to the overall number one seed. Now, there's an interesting take on that in one of the bracketological prognostications. And we'll clear up some of those to do that and let you know. But with regard to the men's game itself, they came out, got the big jump. Kansas had one lead in the game, 2-0. That was it. And the Longhorns had the big jump. And thanks, by the way, to Cam Parker, who put together that highlight montage for us this morning. And got up. They were up 8 at the half after Kansas hit a 3 at the buzzer. There were, I think, 3 occasions in the second half where the Jayhawks closed to within 7. But that was as close as they could get. And Texas ends up pulling away, and they win it by 16, 75-69. Of course, one of the key weapons in that, Sir-Jabari Rice, 23 points, 7 rebounds. Jabari, who would be named Big 12 Conference Sixth Man of the Year yesterday, but had his typical big game coming off the bench for Texas, made some big threes. Loved the one he hit in the corner where he was wide open. They passed it to him. He took his time to take a dribble, stop, eyed it, and nailed it. That was part as well. So we had an opportunity to visit for a moment after the game, after Jabari on Senior Day, one of those seniors, along with Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr and Christian Bishop. And Dylan DeSue went through it as well. Dylan, by the way, technically has a year of eligibility remaining if he wants to use it, but he is going to be graduating in the spring and hasn't made a decision on whether he come back, but wanted to go through that just in case he wasn't coming back. So Jabari, of course, one of those seniors, and a very gratifying moment for Rice and for his teammates as we visited after the game. We talked the other night on the radio show about how much you enjoy playing and how much you enjoy playing in this building. It all kind of culminated today, didn't it, for you and for the team?
Yeah, we had a good game today. It was clicking on both ends of the floor, defense and offense, and we just trusted each other today more than I ever seen, and that's a good thing going into postseason.
What was the biggest difference that you guys did in this game as opposed to the last game up in Lawrence?
I guess trying to slow those guys down as far as like fast break because they're a really good fast break team. They're really good at getting rebounds, offensive rebounding. So the focus was just to box out, take away the fast break, and just be aggressive as far as on offense. So we did, and I think it was successful tonight.
The other thing I think that was so important was that everybody seemed to contribute in one way or another, whether offensively or defensively. You had the biggest scoring afternoon, but you found other guys and other guys found you.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's go back to trust. I think we trusted each other big time tonight, and we just had each other's back when it came to defense and offense. Guys get beat on defense, we got each other back, come make a play, block shot, charge, things like that. And so I think that willed us to the win.
You've had a lot of fun and played in the postseason before. How much are you looking forward to this postseason with this team?
I'm looking forward to it big time. Every time I talk about it, I kind of get chills. I don't want to go home. I'm not done playing for Texas, and so we'll try to stretch that as far as we can.
Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it. Try to stretch it as far as they can. And again, their next action will be on Thursday night in the Big 12 tournament in the quarterfinals at 6 o'clock. Here's a couple of numbers to keep in mind about what the Longhorns have done to this point in the season before we get to the actual Big 12 bracket itself and the women's side as well. The Longhorns, both the men and women, wound up being 23-8 overall. Now Texas went 12-6 in the Big 12 Conference, good enough to finish in second place, sole possession of second, one game back of Kansas. Jayhawks finished 13-5. The net ranking, if you're wondering about seed line and things like this, the net ranking, which is one of the the big tools that the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee uses to evaluate, is their own NCAA net ranking. They're number 10 in that net ranking. They're number 8 in the Ken Pom rankings, which, by the way, makes them the highest rated Big 12 team, even ahead of Kansas, the highest rated there. So there's different criteria that gives different weight to home wins, road wins, quad one wins, things like that. By the way, speaking of quad one games, the Longhorns are 11-8 in quad one games this year. That's tied for the second most nationally with wins. Kansas is 15-6 in quad one wins, and Baylor is 11-9, Texas 11-8 in quad one record. And as of 6 o'clock on Saturday night, Texas was one of 4 schools, and it did hold up, by the way, through the rest of the weekend. Texas is one of 4 schools to rank in the top 20 in Ken Pom. That's Ken Pomeroy. That's, again, one of the big evaluative tools that the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee uses. They are one of 4 schools to rank in the top 20 in Ken Pom in both adjusted offense and defensive efficiency. They're 16th offense, 19th defensively, joined by Houston, Alabama, and UConn in those numbers. So for folks who say, well, I don't get their offense and their half-court game is standing around, their offensive efficiency has them in the top 20 of that. And the 23 regular season victories, the most regular season wins by Texas in 12 years, the 2010-2011 season when they went 25-6. And since the Big 12 moved to an 18-game round-robin schedule that started in the 2011-2012 season, the Longhorns have reached the 12-win mark for the first time in league play, 12-6. They're also 5-3 against AP opponents ranked in the top 11 of the country. It wins over number 2 Gonzaga, number 3 Kansas, number 7 Creighton, number 11 Baylor, and number 7 K-State. They're 7-6 against AP top 25 foes. The 7 wins against AP-ranked teams are tied for the second most in program history. They went 8-5 against AP top 25 teams in 03-04. They went 7-4 in the 05-06 season that we were talking about when they went to the Elite Eight, and 7-6 in 2021. 13 of the Longhorns' 23 wins have been by at least 10 points, and they posted a scoring margin this year of 10.2. In other words, outscoring their opponents nearly 79-69 on that in terms of outscoring the margin. Rodney Terry, in case you're wondering, 16-7 since taking over the program back in December, including 5 wins against AP top 25 opponents. And the Longhorns are 7-1 under Rodney Terry in games decided by 5 points or less or in overtime. And as we know, they had a great year in the Moody Center, averaged 10,965. The capacity is 10,763, but if you counted the standees, the students in the standing room only in the upper corral way up there in the rafters, those standing room tickets were also counted in. So they averaged 10,965 fans this year. They went 16-1 in the 17 games, 6-0 against AP top 25 opponents in games at Moody Center, including 3-0 against top 10 opponents by beating Gonzaga, Kansas, and Creighton. So there it is. There's some other notes about Texas as they get ready to head into the postseason. Now, for the Big 12 Conference Tournament, as I mentioned, the Longhorns will play on Thursday, and they'll play Thursday evening at 6 o'clock, and that will be against the winner of basically what will be Bedlam. It'll be Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and the tournament itself starts up on Wednesday. Oh, by the way, the one other thing I wanted to get to before getting to the tournament, 3 Longhorns received all Big 12 men's basketball awards. Marcus Carr, all Big 12 first team, becoming the first Longhorn player to be a first-team All-Big 12 player since Isaiah Taylor did that 7 years ago, 2015-2016. Sir-Jabari Rice, the six-man award. He joined Kai Jones, who did it 2 years ago as the only Texas players to claim the honor. Rice was also, by the way, named to third-team All-Big 12 and the 5-person Big 12 All-Newcomer team. Timmy Allen selected honorable mention, and as I mentioned, Marcus Carr, number 1, or at least first-team All-Big 12. The Big 12 Conference Player of the Year, you might have imagined, was Jalen Wilson, and the Coach of the Year, Jerome Tang of Kansas State. I know some folks thought Rodney Terry should have gotten the award, certainly deserving of it, but I think Jerome Tang, and Rodney would tell you this as well, certainly deserving as well what he did, because that team was picked, I think, to finish 9th in the league in the preseason poll. And actually, looking at one of them here, it says they were picked last. And, of course, it was his first head coaching job. They went 11-7 in the league. They're 23-8 his first season. That 23-8 record, the best by any first-year head coach in NCAA Division I and the second best in Kansas State history. So he did a heck of a job, and it was impressive to see what they did. And the rest of the All Big 12 awards on the first team, for that first team All Big 12, Adam Flagler of Baylor, Jalen Wilson of Kansas, Keontae Johnson of Kansas State, Marquise Noel of Kansas State, and Marcus Carr, with Jalen Wilson being named Player of the Year. Second team, Keontae George of Baylor, Gabe Kalsher of Iowa State, Grady Dick of Kansas, Damian Ball, TCU, and Mike Miles Jr. of TCU. And on the third team, L.J. Cryer of Baylor, Kevin McCullough of Kansas, Caleb Boone of Oklahoma State, Eric Stevenson of West Virginia, and Sir-Jabari Rice of Texas. Honorable mention, Jaron Holmes of Iowa State, Oshuni from Iowa State, KJ Adams, who, by the way, was named the most improved player of the year in the Big 12, the Westlake product, KJ Adams of Kansas, DeJuan Harris of Kansas, Jalen Hill of Oklahoma, Grant Sherfield of Oklahoma, Emmanuel Miller of TCU, Timmy Allen of Texas, Davion Harmon of Texas Tech, and Kevin O'Banner of Texas Tech, also named honorable mention All Big 12. All Big 12 defensive team, Gabe Kalsher of Iowa State, DeJuan Harris of Kansas, Kevin McCullough of Kansas, Marquise Noel of K-State, and Musa Cisse of Oklahoma State. The all-newcomer team, Keontae George of Baylor, Jaron Holmes of Iowa State, Grady Dick of Kansas, Keontae Johnson of Kansas State, and Sir-Jabari Rice of Texas. And the all-freshman team, Keontae George of Baylor, Tamin Lipsey of Iowa State, Grady Dick of Kansas, also Milos Uzan of Oklahoma, and Pop Isaacs of Texas Tech. So that's where that is. Now, the Big 12 Conference Tournament, it begins with West Virginia against Texas Tech at 6 o'clock on Wednesday night, and that's in that 8-9 play-in game. So that's the first game. And then Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Oklahoma State, the 7 seed. Oklahoma, the 10 seed. That will be at 8:30. In the quarterfinals, it'll start 11:30 Thursday morning. Baylor and Iowa State. And that's your 4 versus 5 matchup. At 2 o'clock, Kansas to get the winner of that West Virginia-Texas Tech Wednesday night matchup. At 6 o'clock, Kansas will play that West Virginia-Texas Tech winner. 6 o'clock Thursday night, Texas, the 2 seed, against the Oklahoma State contest. And then at 8:30, it's Kansas State and TCU. Semifinals will be at 6 and 8:30 on Friday, and the championship game will be at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. So that's on the men's side. On the women's side, and they have not announced the awards yet. That'll come out this afternoon. I would imagine you'll see several Longhorns involved. Rory Harmon, I think, stands a decent shot to be the Big 12 Player of the Year. Vic Schaefer, I think, has a decent shot, along with Jenny Baranczyk of Oklahoma, to be the Big 12 Coach of the Year. So we'll find that out later today, and we'll talk about it tonight on Longhorn Weekly when we have that final seasonal special edition, women's basketball edition of Longhorn Weekly with Vic Schaefer out at Pluckers. Shaylee Gonzalez is going to join us out there from the team. And we're going to hear from the coach's daughter who's on the staff, Blair Schaefer. It's always an interesting conversation. So we're going to hear from them. That's at 6:30 tonight, and that's at Pluckers, the West Campus location, 2222 Rio Grande. If you can't make it out there, you can hear it on 105.3 The Bat, our station, obviously, for Texas women's athletics, women's basketball and softball, 105.3 The Bat at 6:30. But the women's basketball tournament gets underway on Friday. And, well, it actually begins on Thursday. So they will begin on Thursday with the play-in games. And those play-in games on Thursday, and that will have a direct effect on who the Longhorns play as well. Because on Thursday at the old downtown arena at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City, the first game of the day will be at 5 o'clock. That's the 8 versus 9, Texas Tech against Kansas State. The winner of that is going to get Texas at 1:30 in the afternoon. The other game that takes place on Thursday evening, the 7-seed Kansas against the 10-seed TCU. And then the women's quarterfinals begin Friday morning at 11 with Oklahoma State, the 4-seed against the 5-seed West Virginia. Then you have Texas at 1:30. Taking on the winner of that Texas Tech-Kansas State game. In the evening session, it's the 2-seed Oklahoma against the winner of that 7 versus 10 matchup, Kansas and TCU. And then the night game will be the 3-seed Iowa State and the 6-seed Baylor playing at 8:30. So there's your rundown on the Big 12 men's and women's basketball tournament, the all Big 12 teams and the honored teams as well. Coming up, we'll have Inconceivable before we glide on into hour number 2 here with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. You know, in getting ready for March Madness, the issue is, can you get your home entertainment setup ready? You know, our friend Tom McKay at Audiovisual Consultations, they do have some slots available if you're wanting to upgrade your home entertainment experience, and they can probably work on it and get it done to you before March Madness itself begins. But you want to give them a call. First of all, you can check them out on the web, and by doing that at avconsultations.com, you'll see what they offer there. But give Tom a call at 512-255-8678, and you'll have the rundown on everything from him, 512-255-8678, and how they'll work within your budget, how they can set up any room or area that you're interested in your home or office or your man cave, your den, your family room, bedroom, outside patio. Tom and his staff have the equipment, the knowledge, the expertise to set it up the way you want it and at a price that works for you as well. Give Tom and his staff a call, 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. There are things that going through the weekend you might find as inconceivable, and that's why we jump into it here. There's a couple of things to let you know. First of all, if you're a fan of the Royals, and I don't mean the Kansas City Royals, I'm talking about the royal family of England, they're getting ready for the coronation, as you know, of King Charles III. So a couple of items have come out of that. A, the king did invite Prince Harry and Meghan to the wedding. No word as if they're coming out. But if you saw, well, first of all, if you saw it live, I salute you because you're getting up there in age. But even if you've just seen the old film of it or through television or whatever, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth back in 1952, you saw her, the long stately procession and all that, and then she winds up in this chair. Well, the chair isn't used beyond that. They're going to use it again. It needs a little work. It's known as the coronation chair. And the reason why it needs a little work, the chair is over 700 years old. It's been used as the centerpiece of English coronations for centuries, including those of Henry VIII, Charles I, Queen Victoria, and the late Queen Elizabeth II. Of course, Westminster Abbey is where the ceremony will take place. It describes the chair as one of the most precious and famous pieces of furniture in the world and says it's in remarkable condition given its age. Nevertheless, it has still to undergo some conservation work ahead of the ceremony to crown the king and also the queen consort. It's an oak chair believed to have been crafted in about the year 1300, according to a statement from the Abbey, which has hosted the coronations of 39 monarchs since 1066. It was commissioned by Edward I to house the Stone of Scone. That sounds like something you'd get at Starbucks. I'll have a hazelnut latte grande and a stone of scone. But it's also known as the Stone of Destiny, which he captured in 1296 along with the Scottish crown and the scepter. The stone had been used as a seat in the coronation of Scottish kings for centuries. It's now kept in Scotland but reunited with the chair for British coronation. So they're working it together to get that chair ready for the royal coronation day on May 6th on that. Okay. Jack, are you a fan of Girl Scout cookies?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I think it's a travesty that is a seasonal item.
Yeah, you think it should be more than just February, into March?
Buy them all year round. They could make money.
If you think that's a travesty, wait till you hear this. They had a new flavor this year. Did you try the new flavor, the one that's called the Raspberry Rally?
I did not.
It's a chocolate-covered cookie, and it's raspberry, crunchy filling in it. It was incredibly popular. It's kind of a raspberry-flavored version of the Thin Mint, okay? So it was always supposed to be a limited edition item. Well, the cookie sold out, the box is sold out in a few hours. So now there are a lot of people that are really, really wanting it. So they've gone to eBay where they can find it, a box of them, for $30. In an email addressed to a New York chapter of the Girl Scouts, local leaders said that, quote, the Raspberry Rally cookie sold out in less than a day, proved to be more popular than anticipated. And the Girl Scouts said they were disappointed to find that the products are now available through other vendors. When cookies are purchased through a third-party seller, Girl Scout troops are deprived of proceeds that fund critical programming throughout the year. Plus, unauthorized sales can erode the Girl Scout good cookie name. So if you really want them that bad, you can find them all on eBay, but it's going to cost you a little bit. Another thing, how are you with chocolate candy? Do you like chocolate?
I'll take chocolate.
Okay. You ever eat a Toblerone? The big long candy bar, the Swiss one?
The big triangle, I have not.
Yeah, that one. They may have to undergo a change because on their package, if you look at it, it has like this Swiss Alp peak there because it's Swiss. but they're being ordered to drop the image of the Matterhorn because the parent company, Mondelez, is moving some of the Toblerone production to, wait for it, Slovakia. Well, Switzerland has laws regulating the use of national symbols and products claiming to be Swiss-made. And 6 years after that disastrous modification to the shape of their candy bars, Toblerone set to make yet another change. This time they're looking to drop the iconic image of the Matterhorn because it doesn't meet, according to the government, Switzerland's legal definition of Swissness, according to Aargauer Zeitung, a Swiss media outlet that first reported the news on Friday. So Swissness, it's protecting Swissness, and it came into force, which requires any food item marketing itself as being made in Switzerland to source 80% of its raw ingredients from the country. And apparently that's not going to be the case there. So, Toblerone won't have the Matterhorn on the package. Finally, we've had another example of somebody trying to take an animal through a carry-on bag at a TSA in the airport. Norfolk, Virginia, TSA security checkpoints. They run a bag through and they said, "That's an animal in there. It looks like a cat." And it was a live cat. The TSA tweeted out that just when you thought it was safe to bring your pet cat on a trip, a traveler left their pet cat in the travel bag. Attention pet owners, please do not send your pet through the X-ray unit. Catastrophic mistake. Said it was a bad deal. They said it was a case where a passenger was traveling with the pet. They knew the pet was in a carry-on bag because it was a pet travel container. It appears that the individual either did not know how to remove the pet from the travel case or forgot to do so. And then they have to go back to the start of the line again. So take the cat out, walk through TSA with the cat, then put the cat back in there. So they said they have to do that also. Cats tend to be more skittish than dogs, and they might wriggle, scratch, bite, and jump down and try to run away. You don't need a cat running through the airport. That would not be good. All right, hour number 2, Light the Tower. Jeff Howe joins us. A little recap of spring ball and Sark's first spring football media availability is next here on the Horn. Second hour of Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way with you. Jack Farrell, our producer, this morning. And pleased to be joined by my co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County, proud graduate of Florence High School.
Always.
You know him best for his outstanding work at Horns 24/7, where he was plying his trade this morning, scoping out the first day of spring football practice for the Texas Longhorns and Sark's media availability. He is Jeff Howe.
I was sportsing before some people were awake this morning.
Yeah, you were sportsing along there. So I'll tell you what, hold it just for a second. I want to do cleanup from hour number one, then we're going to get the full recap of what you saw, what you heard, those kinds of things.
And we'll get into it in the Longhorn Notebook also.
Absolutely.
So have some carryover.
And we'll also hear from Rodney Terry this hour as well. So we'll do that. Let's see. Jim from Lago Vista asking, can you explain the reasoning why schools that are going from Division II up to Division I are ineligible to participate in the tournament for X number of years? The key number there is X. Like I said, it depends on the conference. They're in what's called transition. They are adding scholarships. Sometimes they have to get facilities up to Division I specs. So they give them a ramp-up time where they do that, where they have to get all those things in order. And then some conferences, to be quite honest, don't want a team just kind of rolling in the first year because there might be something fishy involved there and walking in and winning a conference title and getting an automatic bid, especially some of those smaller mid-major leagues. So for a variety of reasons, there's no one specific. There are a variety of reasons it's called a transition period.
So saying there could be some ringers involved?
Just saying. They want to make sure everything is above board.
You threw out a ringer for a ringer.
Yeah. Golf Lingo says Costco had Girl Scout Thin Mint pretzels this year. They were really good and also sold out quickly. About those Raspberry Rally cookies we talked about, the raspberry version of the Thin Mints that sold out, and now you can find them on eBay. Girl Scout cookies for $30 a box.
Hey, when I was on with Chad and Zay on Thursday,
yeah,
Zay told me he goes over the east side and finds like bootleg Girl Scout cookies.
I didn't know
there was like a bootleg
version,
bootleg black market for Girl Scout cookies, but apparently Isaiah Collier knows the hookup
where to find them.
Deal. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, didn't know that. Somebody said it wasn't that good. Raspberry Rally was okay, not something I would rebuy. We certainly wouldn't buy it. Probably at $30. CB says Samoas are the GOAT. I like the Samoas. I'm also like the Do-si-dos. Those are the peanut butter.
I thought we were talking about the Wild
sandwiches.
Samoans, Alpha and Sika, big tag team back in the day.
No, wasn't talking about that. Talking about those Girl Scout cookies. The Samoas are the ones, the chocolate bottom. They have the coconut and caramel with the chocolate icing on the top, drizzled on the top. Do you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie there, Jack?
I lean Samoa as well, or Caramel Delight, if you will.
Those are good too. Yep, like those.
The lemonades, that's all it's about with me at this point.
Big as a hockey puck, those
lemonades.
Those are
so
like
freaking
the shortbread.
Good. Yeah, the trefoils. Linda likes those as well. So there you go. Texas X said, I'm a fan of the Royals, Daryl and Edith. Yeah, there you go, because we're talking about the royal family and the upcoming coronation. So anyway, also, hey, our man in Belton, very, very proud of his alma mater and Mike Harge's alma mater, whose Ellison Eagles are going to the Final Four in the Boys UIL State Tournament. 37-3. They'll play Mansfield Summit, which, by the way, Mansfield Summit, it's their first ever trip to state. So the last time they made it, my junior year in 92, when Billy Clyde Gillespie was the head coach.
Yes, sir.
Finally beat number one Temple on their fifth try in the regional final. Yeah. Congrats to them. And I'm rooting for them. I'd like to be able to do that if I wind up calling that. Now, that depends on whether the Texas men reach the Big 12 tournament final or not, as to whether I would be calling those games.
Good times over on Elms Road in the 254 now.
Absolutely. Someone asking, with Mark Adams' suspension, maybe the door's open for Beer to return to Texas Tech. I would be. So can we please stop using GOAT for everything? That was another thing we'd heard about. Somebody, I'd read something about that was an overused term or whatever, GOAT, that's become popular. I hadn't really gotten to the Mark Adams suspension yet. For folks who had not heard what happened, the Texas Tech Red Raiders head coach suspended by athletic director Kirby Hocutt for what were called racially insensitive comments, I believe is the way it was described. So, and it's also, to hear Coach Adams talk about it, a difference and a misunderstanding in interpretation, because he said he was quoting the Bible, but he's been suspended for what the school is calling inappropriate, unacceptable, and racially insensitive comments. According to Tech, Coach Adams was encouraging a player to be more receptive to coaching. This is something Jeff Goodman at Stadium had the first story on this, and then, quote, referenced Bible verses about workers, teachers, parents, and slaves serving their masters. Now, this ESPN story says that Adams apologized to the team after he found out a player was upset. Jeff Goodman's piece said that Adams said, I did not apologize for that because I was talking about the Bible. I did not apologize. His actual quote was, I did not apologize.
Man, these coaches, they all have agents for the most part. They need PR reps.
Yeah.
To sometimes tell you, hey, shut up, stop talking. Mark Adams apparently went to the Nate Oates School of PR, which is just keep opening your mouth and inserting your foot in it. You're not doing yourself any favors here if you're planning on keeping your job. By the way, Nate Oates is going to keep his job because he's got a team that's going to get a number 1 seed and they won the SEC. But
Texas Tech, conversely, finished 5-13 in Big 12 play. They're the 9 seed, and they're 16-15 overall as they play West Virginia.
Yeah, I got a feeling that Tech job's going to be open here before too long. I mean, that fan base hadn't been happy with Mark Adams this year, and I don't know I've seen enough of these. When you get the combination of donors and administration pointing their figurative guns at you, you're toast. You're done. You're done, son.
He did sign a contract extension last spring. That was to run through the 2026-2027 season that would pay him $15.5 million over 5 years. If he were to be fired without cause, he'd be owed 60% of what is remaining on the contract, which is more than $7 million. So that's what's been reported and that sort of thing right now. So I don't know. And I would also say that it would be, even in this never say never world that we live in today, I think it would be difficult to imagine Chris Beard returning to Texas Tech.
I think probably you'd be best served. Like, you know how USC, when they hired Lincoln Riley, like they had to get away from any kind of extension. They finally had to just break away from any kind of extension to the Pete Carroll tree, which I think like Texas, after Tom Herman got to that point where it's like, look, the whatever extension you have to the Mack Brown coaching tree, just get away from it. Just start anew, start fresh. I think at this point, Tech should just get away from that Chris Beard coaching tree. Probably just start fresh.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. Tech will play Wednesday night, and they'll be in that 8-9 matchup with West Virginia. If the Mountaineers were to beat them, Tech would finish 16-16, and then I imagine we'd hear one way or another about his future probably shortly thereafter, if that were to be the case.
Do you have to be above 500 to get invited to the NIT, or is it just 500 or better?
Might be 500 or better, but this latest thing doesn't exactly make them an attractive NIT, especially if they were to lose.
You could decline the invite too, in theory, or just make yourself not available be in the pool.
This is different from what's going to happen in the CBI, where Detroit Mercy is going to get invited with a losing record.
Oh yeah, because
the guy with the scoring
Antoine
record,
Davis,
he's was it something like 3 points away or 7 points away from Pete Maravich's all-time record. So they're going to get invited because that event can use all the promotion it can possibly,
what I don't understand. There were people complaining, and it might have been LSU fans. I don't know if it wasn't LSU fans. I apologize to those of you listening. But they were like, "Oh, this record gets broken. It's not going to matter because you're just trying to take away from the greatness that was Pistol Pete." Like, do you really think somebody breaking his record is going to take away anything from or lessen what a great college player Pete Maravich was? No. It's just like if somebody ever breaks Emmitt Smith's rushing record. Which given the way football is today, that seems like an untouchable record, but never say never. Does that mean like, well, he's better than Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and Jim Brown and Emmitt Smith? I mean, he's got more rushing yards. Those guys were garbage. No, they weren't. Doesn't take away anything from how great they were.
It's true. That's true. And I don't think it would, and I understand when folks say, Pete Maravich played in the era before the 3-point shot, all that kind of stuff, played fewer games, yada, yada, that sort of thing. So.
If anything, like it would make you go look at stuff like that, be like, wow, Pete Maravich must have been a badass. Kind of like when LeBron was chasing the scoring record, and you started looking at him like, dude, look at what Wilt Chamberlain did with no 3-point line and guys hanging all over him and how everything,
and
just everything he did.
Yeah, absolutely. There, someone said, Jeff, I pray that one day you will feel so passionately about your faith in Jesus Christ that you would not apologize for it. God bless you, my brother. I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek on that deal.
I don't know either.
I don't know. So anyway, so there's the deal of it. Before we get to the
thank you. Yep. If it wasn't tongue-in-cheek, thank you for assuming my religious beliefs, but whatever the case.
Okay. Before we get to the break, I want to hear from Rodney Terry. This was the post-game conversation we had with him after the game. And then there's a couple of – I waited until you got back in the building, Jeff, to update the bracketological prognostications.
Awesome.
So we're going to get that. But first, Rodney Terry with the conversation that Eddie Orr and I had with him right after Texas beat Kansas 75-59 on Saturday.
We've talked about complete performances. How about this one for your group?
We've been waiting all year for this one right here. I tell you where we put it together defensively, we put it together offensively. We got offense off our defense. We guarded a really good team for the first half and held them 24, one of the top teams in the country, to 24 points. I mean, it was just awesome to see.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Jabari. What was the biggest difference that you noticed in this performance as opposed to the one up in Lawrence?
Well, we took care of the ball. And we were able to keep those guys off the glass, especially early. And, again, we scored off our defense. We sat down and really guarded here today, especially to start the game. And that just carried over into the second half. And, again, I'm just proud of these guys, proud of this team. This team's just been so resilient all year and worked through a lot of adversity, man. I'm just super, super proud of the way they closed that Big 12 play in the toughest league in the country,
Yeah.
Ronnie, talk about your defense playing in position, but more important, not fouling. I thought your team did a good job not fouling.
Did a great job of not fouling. That was an emphasis going into the game. We put those guys on the line. They made 22 free throws in game one. We said we couldn't let those guys get to the paint and get runouts on us. They did over there in game one. But we did a great job. We really controlled this game from start to finish, to be honest.
You have finished in sole possession of second place. You're the number 2 seed. You'll play at 6 o'clock Thursday night, probably against Oklahoma State winner as well. What's the calendar like for the guys and mixing the proper amount of work and preparation before you head up to Kansas City?
Well, we got to take tomorrow off. I mean, we've had a stretch here where we've gone some consecutive days without doing that, and we were on the road. Just really happy again with the guys. We were super disappointed on Wednesday in terms of not being able to close that game out over in Fort Worth. But our guys, like I said to them, the next day, I said we have a chance to do something that a lot of teams don't get a chance to do. You get a chance to respond to your disappointment, and I thought our guys did that at an elite level today.
Hey, congrats on the big win, and we're looking forward to being in Kansas City.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, so there it is, the conversation with Rodney Terry, which you were at the game on Saturday and witnessed a pretty complete performance.
Yeah, I agree, about as complete a game as Texas has played this year. And I think it just shows, I was thinking about this last night, and I'm working on some pre-tournament content right now, and with the All Big 12 team coming out yesterday. So many guys had the guys that came back, a lot of them had their roles changed pretty drastically from where they were last year. Marcus Carr. Marcus Carr is not on the ball near as much as he was last year, yet pretty much all of his numbers are up and all of his shooting percentages are up too. So he's a more efficient more effective, still highly productive player. And Timmy Allen's role changed drastically because the offense doesn't flow through him as often as it otherwise would, as often as it did last year. You realize Timmy's assist numbers are up?
Yeah.
From last year?
Yeah.
I
keep hearing all these people go, they can't win unless Timmy Allen is scoring. Wrong. Not true. It's been proven this year. They won 23 of 31 games with his scoring down this year. And by the way, they proved on Saturday they could beat a really, really good team without Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr both having landmark games.
Because you got to look within the box score, because what's the key numbers for Marcus Carr on Saturday, Craig? 6 assists against 0 turnovers.
Exactly.
And Timmy, that's Saturday was a typical Timmy Allen game. 6 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal.
Yeah.
And for the year, I just had it. Where is it? Yeah. For the year, Timmy is 10.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and almost right at 1 steal a game. That's just a little. Timmy Allen's not great at anything, but he's really good at a lot of things.
Yeah, including defending. Whoever he was picking up on the defensive side.
He doesn't have one like I said, in the analytics community has to hate Timmy Allen because like all this dude does is like take mid-range and short corner jumpers, and every now and then he'll get a bucket in the paint. But it works. It works, and he's damn effective, and he's one of your better passers and can facilitate. So
yeah. By the way, the texter said it was not tongue-in-cheek. It was genuine prayer for you there, Jeff. Just genuine prayer.
I mean,
yeah.
I do have a response, but I'll keep it to myself.
Okay. John in the Bay saying, did the environment created at Moody and the advantage it created surprise you guys at all this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was set up to be the way it could. It all, to me, depended on would the students respond. And whatever else you care to think about and say, and I understand with regard to how it ended with Chris Beard at Texas, it was his vision to have it designed that way to where the students would have 270 degrees of seating in the corral and all that stuff. And then his team, his marketing team, and Lauren Penner was a big part of that. And what they did in getting the students marshaled together to where they were into it, even long after, the change took place and Rodney Terry took over. And there was that. I think it was good to see, the fans in the season ticket area sold up. And they were, remember, in past years, they were drawing in the neighborhood of 11,000 a game, but it just looked like it was, far less than that because of the cavernous size of the Irwin Center. Well, in an arena with a seating capacity of 10,763, and you wind up, I think the average attendance was 10,965 above 100% because of the upper corral. So maybe that surprises some folks. But it was set up. It was planned and executed well to make this work. Now the thing's rolling.
Yeah.
And if they have a good postseason, they can keep it rolling to where that's going to be a very difficult, like you said a few weeks ago, might have been difficult for some folks to imagine, but it's transitioning into becoming a difficult place to play.
It's a home court advantage. I mean, Scott Drew, Bill Self, dang near the only coach that I don't think made a big deal about the environment was Jerome Tang because he's the only one that won, the only visiting coach that won in that building this year.
And they got up big early.
Well, and school wasn't in session at that point.
Right.
So it's not like the students could just walk over from campus and fill those seats.
Yeah. So
because they were still on holiday break. So, but it's nice to see Texas have a legit home court advantage. And I've enjoyed going back and watching the replays because when you're in the arena, it sounds different.
You're right.
And Craig, you got headphones on,
right.
And I'm tunnel vision doing what I'm doing. It gets loud, but when you go back and watch a game replay and really see how the crowd impacts a game, Texas has never had that in basketball. So it's nice to see.
I've been asked by a lot of folks about Dick Vitale sitting next, and I've sat next to Dick Vitale many times on that. He's just exuberant, and what you see is what you get with him. Hey, Craig, it's awesome. How you doing? And he said, somebody told me there's somebody important sitting over there, and I said, that's Michael Dale, the computer. And then he said, and then a senator? I said, yeah, that's John Cornyn, the senator over there. That's awesome. So
Dickie V's a very touchy-feely person. You get like the hand on your shoulder the whole time while he's talking to you.
That was a fantastic Dickie V, by the way. That was fantastic.
Don't do it again because you
it made me cough there. Yeah, allergies working there. Anyway, all right. when we come back, we will have the Longhorn Notebook. Jeff with a recap of what happened this morning in football. So it'll continue as we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Okay, we've had a little bit of rain and then some nice dry weather over the weekend. Who knows when we're going to have another big stormy session, and maybe it'll do damage to your roof. If you haven't already had damage, remember all the falling tree limbs and things like that have happened as well. Well, you've heard me tell you about our good friend John Hardy and Divided Sky Roofing and Solar, and how they're certified electrical contractors. They can set you up with a backup battery or a Generac generator. But don't forget, they're the experts we trust for all of your roofing needs. If you're worried that you might have some roof damage, you can trust John and the staff to give you an honest assessment. And if you do have some damage, it's possible you could get a new roof with Timberline Solar Shingles. And you'd say, oh, they're too expensive. Couldn't fold that. Maybe you checked into it in the past and you think it's just too expensive. Now the prices have dropped, and there's also a 30% tax credit involved. No money down, as little as $100 per month. With Solar Shingles, you own your own power. You're paying yourself every month, not the power company. Just a 15-minute phone call, or you can do one of those online virtual appointments with Divided Sky that can get you all the information you need on a new roof with Solar Shingles. Get in touch with John and his great staff today at Divided Sky. The number is 512-995-ROOF, and it's TEC license number 37397, or check them out on the web at dividedskyaustin.com. This is Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way, Jeff Howe with you. And our producer, Jack Farrell. Before we get to our Longhorn Notebook, we do have a Flex 30 update that we need to bring you. So we need to get you the Flex 30 update first. Okay, here's your Flex 30 update. There are no Austin area teams left playing basketball this year. That's it. No, there's a little more to it than that. But all of the remaining Greater Austin teams were knocked out in regional tournament play over the weekend.
Okay, what are we doing with Ellison? Are they part of the Flex coverage area or not?
Well, I mean, if folks want to count them in there, that's okay. I think of them as a super Centex team, really, myself.
I will, for the purposes of this show, I will count the Fighting Mike Harges as an Austin area team.
Okay. I prefer to say Central Texas inclusive of Austin because they're really not Austin area. They're 60 miles out. Right?
Yeah.
So, But yes, your point is made where you can kind of – and, by the way, there will be some folks who will make the point, and that would include probably our good friend Jim Spencer over at KXAN, the weather forecaster par excellence, because he likes to put in those forecasts, and I've seen David Yeomans do it as well, he likes to include in those forecasts Flatonia. And Flatonia did make it in 2A into the state semifinal. Now, I think of them more as, South Central, kind of, they're kind of in one of what I refer to as kind of one of those black holes because they're between San Antonio, Houston, and Austin. But Flatonia made it. They're in 2A, and they're playing La Pointer there in the 2A semifinals. So if you have Flatonia and you've got Killeen Ellison, and that's about as close as you get out of the Greater Austin area. Stony Point got beat in the Sweet 16 by a really good Brennan team that then turned around and into the season for San Marcos in the regional final. Great run by the Rattlers. Yeah. Great run, but it ends there with Brennan, and Brennan will be in the semifinals 7 o'clock Friday night against Beaumont United. It's an all-Metroplex matchup in the other 6A semifinal. Lake Highlands against DeSoto in that.
Trey Johnson, number one player in the country in the class of 2024.
Absolutely. Your other matchups, 1A, Benjamin against Grayford, and the Fighting Billy Gillespies. He was from Grayford there. Benjamin, of course, won the six-man state championship in Division II, and now they've reached the Final Four in basketball. McMullen County, we heard Victor weighing in on. They won the regional that was down at Burger Center. They'll play Jayton in the other 1A semifinal. That's Thursday morning. Then Thursday afternoon, the 3As. Hooks and Hitchcock, Lytle and Childress. And then in the evening session in 5A, Kimball, the Arterio Morris alma mater, from Dallas, taking on San Antonio Vets Memorial, and then Killeen Ellison in the 5A, taking on Mansfield Summit at 8:30. So that's Thursday night there for Ellison. Then on Friday morning, it's Lipan, whose girls just won the state title in 2A. 2A semifinals, Lipan against New Home, Flatonia against La Pointer. Then you've got, back to defend their title, Oak Cliff Faith Family Academy, the charter school. They're playing Canyon Randall in one of the 4A semifinals of the other one. Bernie, whose girls made it to the semifinals as well, playing Houston, Washington. And then in the 6A evening, as I mentioned, Beaumont United and Northside Brennan, Lake Highlands against DeSoto.
I need Harge, if Mike Harge is listening, I need Harge on Ball Don't Lie to give us the C.E. Ellison High School Mount Rushmore. Who would be the four people on it?
Tommy Harris.
Tommy Harris, certainly.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them. Is Harge on it?
Harge might be on it.
Yeah, might be on that Ellison Eagle
Are we looking for like best Ellison baseball product? Is it down to Harge and Travis Tucker?
The running back, David Winbush.
Yeah.
David Winbush.
Former Kansas great.
Yeah. That would be one there. All right. So if Harge is listening, he can let us know on that. All right. So there it is. There's your Flex 30.
It's your homework today, Harge.
There it is. All right. Time now. Harge will join me tomorrow night on the Call Longhorn baseball game.
Oh, Harge doing color tomorrow.
He'll be with me on Texas and Sam Houston tomorrow night. So Mike will be back. He was busy. He was up in Frisco doing baseball.
Harge is all over the place right now.
He is. Ready to roll with our Longhorn Notebook. A Longhorn Notebook that is brought to you by our good friend Aaron Bowersock, your Longhorn lender and your home loan expert. Check her out on the web at bowersockteam.com. This is a true Jeff Howe Longhorn Notebook.
Yep. Longhorns going 13-0. That's what I saw this morning.
Is that your forecast?
They're undefeated. Yep.
One practice, and you're ready to proclaim it. I understand.
No, I mean, I've got notes up at Horns 24/7, and we're not going to cover everything in this, nor will we cover everything that Sark said. But, some general observations. And they changed our area where we're allowed to watch practice. So
How so?
We're allowed to be on the sideline this time.
Okay.
So I watched the defense almost exclusively this morning because I just don't get to see those guys very often. And you look at the physical development, even just over the winter, of guys like Terrence Brooks, Ethan Burke, Jamon Tapp, especially those guys that were freshmen last year. Like Terrence Brooks looks like an NFL corner right now. That's what happens, Craig, when you recruit high-level recruits and you can develop them a little bit and they've got projectable tools. They haven't tapped out physically. I'm really liking where some of these guys, where their bodies are going. Jalen Catalon was out there. He had a green non-contact jersey kind of tucked in the back of his shorts. He was a little bit limited. He had the shoulder surgery at Arkansas last year that ended the season. But I like what Sark said. He said Jalen Catalon's kind of a natural leader and is taking on some of that defensive leadership that DeMarvion Overshown, and especially on the back end with Anthony Cook leaving. He said that was something that they really wanted to add. They wanted to add experience in the secondary, losing Deshaun Jameson, losing Anthony Cook. He feels like they added that, not just with Catalon, but with Gavin Holmes, too, the corner out of Wake Forest, who's backing up Jahdae Barron at that star position. Your three guys working at that star position, and an individual were Jahdae Barron, Gavin Holmes, and Austin Jordan. Really intrigued by the D-line group. I wrote this about Sadir Mitchell, and again, this is the first time you get to look at the freshmen like in a workout setting with the veterans, so it's really an apples-to-apples comparison. If there is such a thing as a lean 360 pounds, that's Sadir Mitchell. Like, he wears 360 about as good as anybody could wear 360. And Craig, I was thinking about this, like, I'd probably have to go back to the era when, like, guys like, I think about like a Will Winston, a Lionel Guard, like when Texas had those, when Texas was recruiting those kind of guys, when that's the kind of offensive lineman Mac wanted and trench guys Mac wanted, that's probably the last time Texas had guys like Sadir Mitchell or Peyton Kirkland. I mean, Andre Kojo's 350 plus. Connor Stroh is 350 plus. That's probably the last time until now that you had guys that were just massive, like mountain men in the trenches. It's impressive to watch some of these guys, how big they are, but how well they move. So that really kind of caught my eye. David Bendas, it looks like he's going to get the first crack at filling that void left by DeMarvion Overshown. He was with the only time we get to see all 11 guys together is in pursuit drill. David Benda was lined up next to Jalen Ford in pursuit drill. So he's going to get the first crack at it. Mo Blackwell, Jet Bush on the second team, got Anthony Hill. I keep hearing really good things about Leunga Lafau as an early enrollee. So that I wouldn't get worked up at all about the depth chart the first day of spring practice. Just like we say in fall, don't get worked up about what the depth chart looks like. Those guys are going to have a chance. And Sark even said about the edge opposite Barron Sorrell, he used the term Rolodex. So we're going to Rolodex some guys. We're going to run some guys through there to really kind of figure it out and see what they've got before they settle on somebody at that position to replace Ovia Gofu. Justice Finkley's going to get a crack at it. Chris Ross, Craig, if you remember, he was like a 270, 280 kid at North Shore. He's under 250 now, listed at 246, and they've kicked him out to edge. So he's in that mix too. It's just really interesting to see how the body development up front with everybody. Jare Bledsoe's like just a hair under 270. I still like him long-term as kind of a Moro Ojomo type guy that can play different shades, do some different things. Malik Murphy did not throw. He was dressed out, did not throw a single pass while we were out there. And Sark said he's still dealing with some, I don't know if it's residuals or if it's just he's maybe kind of aggravated something a little bit, but it's still that foot still was bothering him. So they're being careful with them. Obviously, first day of spring practice, you're going to be careful with it. So it was Quinn Ewers running with the ones. Arch was the number 2 quarterback, and then that second group was Cole Lord and Charles Wright. So you got 5 quarterbacks, 4 on scholarship in camp right now, which is a good number for them. Yes, did get to see Arch Manning throw this morning. Yes, there were times where it looked impressive. There are also times where it looked like, oh, he's a freshman going through his first college practice. So don't read into anything. Sark did say the quarterback job is open, but he said that because he really wants Arch and Malik, whenever he's healthy, if and when he's healthy, to really push Quinn Ewers and make Quinn work to keep that job. He said that's no different than any other position. when you do 11-on-11 team periods or Pascal or 7-on-7, whatever it is, somebody has to be the number 1 quarterback, and it's going to be Quinn. But Sark even said it himself this morning. He said he doesn't want, Arch to feel like he's out of it. He wants to kind of let this thing go. And if Arch ends up pushing Quinn, then so be it. Then you've got 2 quality quarterbacks. So
True.
He's going to let this thing play out. On the injury front, so Sark did confirm Xavier Worthy played pretty much the last half of the year last year with a broken hand. We kind of heard that, and still it's kind of like, okay, to what extent? Like, it wasn't bad enough to where he had to come out, and it didn't require surgery, and to my knowledge was never in a hard cast. But it clearly it affected him on some level. In terms of what percentage we could put on it, we probably might not ever know. But Xavier Worthy's back from the broken hand. Jalen Gilbo with the ACL, Isaiah Nair with the ACL. Those guys are still rehabbing. Probably, Sark said if he had to give a definitive status on both those guys, probably right now would be out, but he's not going to completely rule them out from getting back for some portion of spring practice. Cole Hudson coming off shoulder surgery. You've got Connor Robertson coming off the wrist surgery. Jonathan Brooks coming off the hernia surgery. Sounds like Brooks is a little bit ahead of where the other 2 guys are. He's hoping to get all those kind of guys back at some point in the second half of spring practice. Keelan Robinson's dealing with some sort of a muscle strain right now, so they're being cautious with him. And let me look real quick, Craig, and see if there's anything else in terms of injuries. I think that gets it all covered. Because I did mention Malik Murphy. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And I said Jalen Catalon was limited. That was the other one. Okay. A.D. Mitchell looked really good. Probably the quote-unquote play of the day if you want to go there. During one-on-ones, Arch Manning threw a real beautiful go ball to A.D. Mitchell, kind of set it out in front of him, and Mitchell went and got it. That's a good-looking receiver group. And then throughout the week, we'll hear more audio from Sark, and we'll get into it. That receiver group looks really good. Sark really likes where they're at from a depth standpoint, but it's all about now that you've got good young depth at competition, can that depth become quality depth? And can guys compete every day and raise the level at practice every day? I know that was a crash course, but
that's all right. It's the intro to all of it. Spring practice is underway. We'll be back to wrap up today's edition of Light the Tower on the Horn. And we're getting ready to wrap up Light the Tower. Couple of things. Updated AP top 25 rankings out. What'd you say, Jeff? Longhorn men up to number 7?
7. Yes, 7 in the AP poll.
The final regular season poll, number 7. I promised the bracketological prognostications for you there, Jeff. So I held on to them. Texas, according to Joe Lunardi, holds its 2 seed. And he has them in the East, but he has them opening in Birmingham against Youngstown State. He's expecting to win on that. And then our friend Jerry Palm has Texas, likewise as the 2 seed. And he's got them in the Midwest playing in Denver against Colgate, projected winner there, possibly against the winner of Creighton and USC, a rematch
with Creighton. All right.
In a second. It'd be interesting if it happened that way. We'll find out. We'll have more on this coming up during the course of the week.
By the way, Mike Harge sent me his Ellison High School Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it because I expect that to be in a flex segment on Ball Don't Lie today.
Excellent. Okay. All right. That'll be good. All right.
At least I want it to be. I'm not going to run Harge and Rod's show for them.
There you go. Thanks to Jack Farrell, our producer today, and for Jeff Howell and Craig Wade. Thanks for joining us. Chad and Zay are up next. We will visit with you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, right here on Light the Tower.